When you watch raw footage from the final years of World War II, there's a strange grounding effect. Grainy images of ration lines, victory gardens tucked into bombed cities, soldiers resting beside fields, and communities rebuilding from the soil up. For us here at Roots Haven Grounds, this isn't about glorifying war, it's about understanding resilience. Between 1942 and 1945, people survived by reconnecting with the land, respecting limits, and growing food with intention. As gardeners, there's a lot we can learn from those years, lessons that remain evergreen, practical, and deeply relevant to how we grow today. Below, I want to walk you through what that raw footage teaches us, not as history students, but as gardeners who want healthier soil, stronger harvests, and a mindset that lasts through hard seasons. Why the final years of World War II matter to gardeners. By 1942, the world was under pressure. Supply chains were broken, fertilizers were scarce, fuel was rationed, and imported food became unreliable. The footage from these years shows a simple truth: when systems fail, the soil steps in. People didn't garden for trends, they gardened to eat. Backyard plots, community gardens, and small farms became lifelines. Every scrap of organic matter mattered. Compost piles weren't optional, they were survival tools. For modern gardeners, this is a reminder that gardening isn't just a hobby, it's a skill. When you focus on soil health and local resilience, you're preparing for uncertainty, whether that's climate stress, rising costs, or poor harvest seasons. Soil was the real currency. You know, one thing that really stands out in raw World War II footage is just how carefully soil was treated back then. There was absolutely no room for waste. Kitchen scraps went right back into the compost pile. Manure was collected and aged with care. And crop residues? They stayed put. Right on the ground. This is honestly a powerful lesson for today's gardener. Healthy soil doesn't come from bottles. Nope, it comes from cycles. When you stop removing organic matter and start returning it, your soil just gets more alive with every season. So, if you want to apply this lesson now, start by feeding your soil before you even think about feeding your plants. Compost regularly, mulch heavily, and disturb the soil as little as possible. What people practiced out of necessity in the 1940s is now, well, proven science. Victory gardens and the power of small spaces. It's honestly amazing what people achieved with just a little patch of earth. The footage from 1943 and 1944 often shows gardens squeezed into impossible spaces, between buildings, along fences, beside rail lines. These weren't decorative, they were productive. This matters if you garden on a balcony, a small yard, or borrowed land. The final years of World War II proved that space is less important than intention. With good soil, consistent care, and smart crop choices, even a small plot can feed a family. So, it's really smart to focus on crops that give you continuous harvests. Leafy greens, herbs, root crops, and climbing vegetables were super common back then for a reason. They deliver both calories and nutrients, and honestly, they don't demand huge areas to grow. Gardening without chemicals, just going back to basics. Another striking detail from wartime footage is, well, the absence of synthetic inputs. Chemical fertilizers and pesticides were actually redirected to the war effort, so gardeners really had to rely on biology. This, forced a deeper understanding of natural systems. Crop rotation was essential, diversity reduced pests, healthy soil reduced disease, and, these weren't just theories, they were daily practices. Today, many gardeners struggle because they treat symptoms instead of systems. The World War II approach reminds us to work with nature, not against it. Build microbial life, encourage beneficial insects, and, honestly, accept that a few pests are part of a balanced garden. Water was managed, not wasted. You'll notice careful watering in footage from 1942 to 1945. Water was carried, reused, and directed only where needed. Mulch was used to reduce evaporation long before it became a popular gardening tip. For us, this is a lesson in efficiency. If you're watering every day, something is off. Healthy soil holds moisture, mulch protects it. Deep, infrequent watering trains roots to grow stronger. Try observing your garden the way wartime gardeners did. Watch how water moves, improve infiltration, shade the soil. These small shifts save time, water, and effort. Gardening is community, not competition. One of the most moving parts of World War II footage is honestly the shared work. Neighbors gardened together, knowledge was passed hand to hand, seeds were saved and exchanged. Modern gardening can feel isolated, but it doesn't have to be. When you share cuttings, compost ideas, or harvest tips, you strengthen your local food system. Gardening becomes more resilient when it's collective. At Roots Haven Grounds, this idea is central. You know, a single gardener can grow food, but a connected community can grow security. Mental strength, well, it grows from the ground up. The final years of World War II were emotionally heavy. Gardening offered routine, purpose, and hope. People found stability in tending plants when the world felt unstable. This is something every gardener understands, whether you're new or experienced. The act of planting, watering, and harvesting really grounds the mind. It teaches patience and, rewards consistency. If you're feeling overwhelmed, just spend more time with your soil. Gardening isn't just about food, it's about resilience, both mentally and emotionally. Applying World War II lessons to your garden today can make a real difference, honestly. You don't need to recreate a 1940s garden to benefit from these lessons. You just need to adopt the mindset. Grow what you eat, feed your soil first, waste nothing, observe more than you intervene. Start small if you're a beginner. Focus on soil health and simple crops. If you're experienced, challenge yourself to reduce inputs and increase efficiency. The goal is a garden that supports you, not one that constantly demands rescue. The raw footage from 1942 to 1945 reminds us that gardening works best when it's rooted in reality. Nature doesn't care about trends. It responds to care, balance, and respect. So, just wrapping up here at Roots Haven Grounds, I want to leave you with a few thoughts that have really stuck with me throughout this journey. History doesn't just live in books. It lives in practices that still work. The gardeners of World War II didn't have luxury, but they had wisdom born from necessity. And honestly, that wisdom is still available to us every time we touch the soil. If this perspective resonated with you, I'd encourage you to take it into your own garden, grow with intention, build resilience one season at a time. And hey, if you want more grounded, practical, and timeless gardening insights, make sure to subscribe to Roots Haven Grounds, share this article with a fellow gardener, and help us keep this knowledge growing from the soil up.